Sciuri, sciuritti tutto l'anno, l'amore capirà se ti ritorno. Sciuri, sciuri, sciuritti tutto l'anno, l'amore capirà se ti ritorno.
In Sicily, religious feasts celebrate a triumph, even in excess, of things to eat. They compensate symbolically for the precariousness of a way of life that, until a few decades ago, bordered on starvation and misery. This excess seems to be characteristic of the poorest of archaic societies, where it was common to waste much of what was prepared for a feast. So, food was offered in hopes of a blessing, and the saint was celebrated with a banquet. This is the reason why the food offered at a feast in Sicily is never just food, but is also a rite that encompasses various histories and traditions. In towns in the interior of Sicily, the feast of San Giuseppe on March 19th is celebrated at home with altars offering a banquet. Called altars of San Giuseppe, these are huge tables piled high with food that strive to impress the villagers who have been invited to view them. These altars are mounted to accompany a religious vow made to San Giuseppe, and the food displayed on the altar is meant for the actors in this rite. 3 poor children from the town, who represent Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. The altar and the ritual feast, consumed by the 3 saints on March 19th, is merely the issue of a ceremony that lasts at least 10 days. The preparations begin with the making of biscuits, a process that requires an entire 4 days. Most of these are made of almond pastry and of short pastry and will keep for some time. Thus, they are the first recipes to be made for the altar. All the women in the family join together to make these sweets, and once they are made, before they are displayed on the altar, they are hidden in remote parts of the house so that no one will eat them in advance. These biscuits will be arranged on plates at the top of the altar in groups of 3 for distribution to the 3 saints. The nearly infinite shapes in which these biscuits are made, animals, vegetables, hearts, stars, represent the various shapes present in the universe and constitute a kind of hymn to life.
Vini la primavera, li mennoli son ciuri, lo fuoco di l'amori, lo cori mahatumo, e a mezzo soli e ciuri, a polo la scetti, tutti sti cosi betti, mi fanno su.
The 5th and 6th day is devoted to baking bread, the central element in the feast and in our diet in general. Bread making begins at dawn in the countryside, where nearly everyone has a wood oven. The bakers must rise early because bread making requires a warm house, so the oven is stoked to raise the temperatures and allow the bread to rise. Concetta mixes the dough into 2 batches of 20 kilos each. The bread is handled with all the care and love afforded to a newborn baby. The dough is mixed quickly and rhythmically with strong arms. Concetta's mother and sister-in-law help, and they use their whole bodies to stir the dough. The kneading, too, is done quickly because the dough is now alive and can get out of hand, rising too much. The 3 shapes that depict the Holy Family in Mirabella are the beard of San Giuseppe, the Virgin with her hands crossed on her breast, and the rooster, who represents Jesus. Almost all of the shapes into which the bread is molded are traditional ones, made without forms and using only a few utensils, such as a fork and pincers, and they may take only animal, plant, floral, or geometric shapes. Many of these shapes are very ancient, dating back to agrarian cults of the Neolithic period. They are found in many other parts of Sicily. Elsewhere, the bread shapes may represent the saint's tools, such as a saw, pincers, or hammer, parts of his body, such as the hand or beard, symbols of the Passion of Christ, a spear, nails, a stick with a sponge, a ladder, or depictions of symbolic fruits or animals, such as the grape, the rooster, or fish. At Ramaka, the symbolic shapes include a flowered branch, a braid, and a beard, as well as large kudure with floral patterns. On these forms grow flowers, sprigs of wheat and fruits, and these are symbols of the natural world in all its abundance. When the bread has risen, it is brushed with eggs and baked. The period of baking is experienced as a rite of waiting, patience, and reflection. When finally the great golden kudure, weighing nearly 7 to 8 kilos each, are baked, they are ready to go on the altar. On the 6th, 7th, and 8th days, working even harder and faster, the women prepare the food that must be eaten fresh. The little pastries, called casatelle, are filled with sweetened chickpeas and vino cotto, which is reduced grape must. These are a specialty of Mirabella, and they are complicated to make, because firstly, the chickpeas must be boiled until soft, sweetened with sugar and vino cotto, and finally wrapped and fried, along with the Sfinge of San Giuseppe, only one day before the altar is unveiled. The preparation of the tables and plates, which is done bit by bit over the week, is also of great importance. Each plate must be calibrated in portions. 3 portions, 3 and 3, plus 1 that will be divided among the saints at the moment of the ceremony. Thus, 3 pieces of broccoli will be offered along with 1 piece, to divide in 3 to be eaten. The table will be decorated with linen from the bride's dowry, and the images must be chosen with care, and only orange blossoms and bay branches are used, plants that symbolize the rebirth of nature in the spring, like we find in the staff of San Giuseppe in the church at Santa Croce Camerina. The food prepared for the altar will be consumed by the 3 protagonists of the ceremony, representing Joseph, Mary, and Jesus, as well as by all those who wish to participate. The meal begins with blancmange, a milk pudding of medieval origins offered at the feast of San Giuseppe, because it was meant to break the Lenten fast and prepare the stomach for what followed. The lady of the house then has the saints taste all the food offered on the table, beginning with antipasti, then pasta with fava and other beans, and the macu, a ceremonial minestrone made of hulled dry fava beans. This last dish symbolizes the consumption of the last seeds left over from the winter, in the hopes that spring will bring a rebirth, making the saints fertile along with all the other members of the family and the household, including, once upon a time, even the animals who are giving the macu to taste. The symbolism of the holy breads and the ceremony certainly reflect Christian rites. At the same time, however, it is evident that there are elements mixed into the San Giuseppe ritual that hark back to a pre-Christian votive meal. The egg, for example, the cosmic symbol par excellence for ancient agrarian societies, is divided among the three saints at the beginning of the meal, as if to signify that the banquet has a cosmological significance. The egg is the world because it is full, Celestina tells us. The three panuzzi, called by some umundu, or the world, suggest the universe as well as the mystery of the Trinity. Celestina offers these to the saints with great symbolic care, making sure to cut them precisely without turning them over or stabbing them with a knife, which would be sacrilegious. Finally, at the end of the meal, when the huge cakes have been cut and all has been distributed, the great kudure are given to the saints. These sacred breads, to which family and friends have attached money for the children, are given out along with the traditional fugacane biscuit made in Ramaka.
Se troppo dispettosa tocco mia, cascuro letto sommi insonno a chia, si brutta dalla faccia e dallo cori, amarato di picchia di moglieri, sciuri, sciuri, sciurici tutto l'anno, l'amore camera se ti lo torno, sciuri, sciuri, sciurici tutto l'anno, l'amore camera se ti lo torno, la 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 la.